Hey folks, Mark Scroggins with Scroggins Law Group back for another edition of the Reclamation Transformation podcast. Today, I've got a good buddy of mine, DJ Walker. DJ, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I am good, man. Thanks for joining us today. Folks, this is really neat. I've known DJ, God, it's got to be about 10 years now.
Yes.
Holy crap. And DJ is just one of these incredible success stories that has just grown incredibly. He's got a couple of different businesses, one that is near and dear to my heart, Dallas Sober Living Solutions. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Tell the folks a little bit about what Dallas Sober Living Solutions is.
Well, we try to provide sober living for men and women coming out of treatment, and we try to provide them a clean, safe environment with structure to where they can rebuild their lives and try to get back on the right path.
Man, that's such a great thing. And I mean, you talk about a way of giving back. That's huge.
Yep.
I bet you've got some interesting stories, though.
Oh, yeah. It's been some bumps along the way.
Like you were just telling me a minute ago about with the women's houses that you, because of the eating disorder, how often sometimes that will follow, that you can't have scales in the house.
Yeah, we just chose not to do that.
That's super smart, but I never would have had a clue that that was something that you actually had to look at.
Well, yeah, it's what I've learned is that I don't really know a lot about eating disorders,
Right.
but that does manifest with people's alcoholism and addiction.
Right.
So that's just something that it was brought to my attention by Ashley Hino. She helps us out with the houses,
Gotcha.
and she had suffered from that herself. And she just pointed some stuff out to us to help us be aware of that.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So now you have another business that is does a lot in the roofing department. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm managing partner at Absolute Construction. We're roofing contractors, and we do residential and commercial roofing.
So, so folks, if you need either of those, DJ is your man. I can tell you that I have reached out with us having all the hail and everything,
Yep.
and we need to take a look at my roof sooner rather than later. But you know, DJ's also got a very interesting story of. It's amazing sitting here today. I mean, we know each other, both friends of Bill, and have known each other for quite some time. But I mean, I've just watched you grow over a period of time, and your life today is a little different than when I first met you.
Oh yeah, I think I was living on my mom's couch. yeah, I was trying to save money to get into a sober house.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So huge success to go from there to where you are today. And but one of the other things that was really interesting to me is your wife is Filipino,
Yes.
correct? So what y'all had to go through to be able to get married, and she's got a daughter as well.
Correct.
And to be able to bring her over there, can you let's talk a little bit about y'all tried to take a vacation not too long ago, and it didn't quite go as planned.
Yeah, it did not, because she has a Philippine passport.
Right.
Although she's a green card holder of the United States,
Right.
some countries don't recognize that.
Right.
No, they want you to have a special visa if your country. What it was explained to us is, well, the Philippines is not a NATO country,
Right.
so you need a special visa to get into the country.
Right.
However, they didn't explain that when they took our money for the plane tickets.
Of course not.
And we told them what passports. No one went into that, so we got over there, and they weren't allowed to come into the country.
Oh my gosh. So,
Yeah.
it's interesting because that's something that in family law, we try to deal with everything as much as possible when, you're concluding a divorce or you're concluding a child custody action. And so one of those are passport provisions that we've got in a final decree of divorce or in a final order in a suit affecting parent-child relationship. And so one of those is like, who can get the passport? Does it require both parents or does one have control? So like if someone is sole managing conservator, they don't have to worry about that. They've got the ability to go and get it. So in a situation like, if your wife's ex is not involved, she would be over here. She could get sole managing conservatorship, or if you adopted, so that y'all could be making those decisions. Because, man, one of the last things you want to do is have a situation like what y'all just went through.
Yep.
So, not crazy to have to, to spend that money and then go over there and then, good Lord, they get turned around.
Well, yeah, I mean, I couldn't get refunds on the plane tickets because we used half of them on the way over, so I had to buy new tickets.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah, to come back. So it was, we also had those challenges when my wife immigrated to the country
Right.
with the passport. Well, with just moving children from one country to another without both parents' consent is next to impossible.
And it's weird because I mean, you and I can have a conversation about that, and this, you know, people who are trying to live life the right way and
Mhm.
trying to, you know, follow all the rules that we're supposed to be following. And so we think more along the lines of, God, what a pain in the ass that is,
Yeah,
as compared to thinking about, the child trafficking and sex trafficking and all that kind of stuff that
yes,
actually goes on. I mean, it's funny, we're sitting here in my Frisco office, and just around the corner is the Frisco Hyatt Regency, where they just had that huge bust on all the sex trafficking
yeah.
stuff. So, amazing to think about that kind of crap and that it still really
Well, the
happens.
laws work.
Yeah,
They
thank
may.
God.
Yeah, I guess it's if you're doing it legally, it's you feel like it's an inconvenience
Right,
because you're trying to get your family here.
right,
But in retrospect, it's there for a reason.
right,
And it's we need those extra layers to keep children from being just snatched out of their countries.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and one, so thank God that happens. I mean, the pain in the ass thing is there, but like you said, thank God that, we don't, that they've got those laws so you don't run into
Yeah.
those kind of problems. I want to kind of pivot here for a second because one of the things, you've got a story that is, that has some similarities to mine in that, I've been very, very blessed in, the life I get to live today. And a big part of that is, getting my shit together and getting sober and doing all that. I didn't have um, let's just say I didn't have the life that I have today, and a big
Yeah.
part of that is the peace that I feel today, the serenity that I have today, because one of the things as a divorce lawyer or family law attorney is, I am shepherding people through one of the absolute worst times of their lives. Because, when you go through a divorce, that's one of the five worst things that you can go through, right? It's, death of a family member, loss of a job, relocation. Those are all the big stressors, divorce being one of those as well. And so generally, I'm not dealing with people when they're at their absolute best. So if you're an asshole, you're a bigger asshole than you were,
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Not to mention, all the financial insecurity and everything that goes along with that. And so that's really, really difficult in a lot of people. So thank God that today I've got that peace and serenity that I didn't always have. Because, I hear a lot of people that, I've known for coming up on 30 years of doing this. And they're like, you're a lot more mellow today than you were, just 10 years ago. And I'm like, well, it's amazing what happens when you get your life together and you get sober and start walking a little different pathway. And I think
Does
you've
that
had some
keep
of
your
those.
clients so mellow when you're mellow? The way you carry yourself and your serenity and connection, does that transfer over to them and calm them down and
I
let them
think it.
ease
I
through
think
it?
it's definitely helpful. It's definitely helpful. And at least one of the biggest. So I would say that I've got alcohol and drug issues in probably 80% of my cases. Okay, and at least an allegation is being made, whether it's total bullshit
Mm.
or it's real. And so when I'm able to talk at a gut level, honesty level, and say, hey, I fought that fight. And if you really want to get sober, if it's really a problem, you can have a better life than you ever thought was possible. I think that has a way of bringing some peace to someone who's really struggling. Conversely, there are times that I don't need to talk about that kind of thing, but somebody's just they're crawling the walls because they're so freaking nervous about everything. And I don't know which way is up and I don't know this. Well, something that we can do that's a little different. We can help people with getting into some therapy to deal with a lot of the shit that they're just dealing with. So it's kind of like with depression, right? There are people that have chronic depression or, they're going to need to be on medication forever. You have some people that have, situational depression. You just need a little help for a little while. And so maybe that's something that we deal with. But I think, being able to talk about that gut level honesty, I think it definitely tends to calm people down. I don't know what your experience is, but if I am sitting there, it's like having an argument with someone, right? If everybody keeps amping it up, with guys, pretty much we're throwing hands, before too long, right? But we don't want to do that in a professional
Yeah.
situation, right? So if we can if I can, I should say, I shouldn't talk about anybody else. If I can tone it down a notch and I can be that voice of reason, a lot of the time that tends to help. So I would imagine that it's, when you start dealing with people's houses and stuff, you get people that are, holy shit, I've got 4 pots in here, and, I've got this going and this going, and why can't this go faster? And the insurance company's doing this and that. And
Yeah,
I mean, what's your experience there?
I just try to manage expectations.
So how do you do that?
Well, first of all, I assess what kind of damage they have, and I let
Okay.
them know that, the ultimate decision is your insurance company.
Right,
And if they approve the roof, we'll sit down and we'll go through all the paperwork line by line,
right,
and then we'll come up with a solution that works for both of us to
Right.
get your house back together.
right,
It's and it's a lot of times it comes down to customer service, product, and price.
right,
You know what I mean? But with insurance, your price is your deductible. They
Right.
deal with the rest.
right,
And then we have financing options for that and stuff like that. But, I just want to be very transparent and tell them the hard questions.
yeah.
The hard facts and truths about
Right.
what's going to happen.
So how do you deal with the problems with the insurance companies? Because you've got so many these days that it's like their starting point is no.
Yes.
It really seems to be. I mean, now it's kind of progressed to where it's all throughout, all different kinds. I mean, down to your health insurance and, all kinds of different ones. But so how do you deal with that?
Well, I just assess the damage, and you get a feel for what insurance company's looking for what,
Right,
by just doing it for years. So I know going in, and I just tell the people that the amount of damage you have here, either it's, we don't need to file a claim, I need to quote you something for repair, or if I feel like we should go forward, I tell them up front, with your particular insurance company, this is going to be a fight. And, I will get it done, but it's not going to happen in a week.
right,
So if you want to go down this road with me, we're going to go down it. I'm going to be with you to the end, but it needs to be done. I've even taken people on the roof and showed them the damage.
right,
So it's not like I'm just on your roof. I show you videos, photographs, or even with you up there with me.
right.
And it's just going to be a fight. But there's only a couple of insurance companies we're having that problem with. It's some of the larger ones.
Right.
But, I don't want to say any names.
Sure. No, and I wouldn't ask
Yeah.
you to,
But people know who they have and who they are. You never know how good your insurance is until you have to use it.
you know what? That I tell people that all the time. It's like, God forbid you have the audacity to actually want insurance to pay for something,
Yeah.
and then they, turn around and cancel you
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
So
Well, storm claims are different. They can't counsel you for a storm.
Right.
It's act of God.
Right.
Only homeowner negligence. If you burn up your kitchen or flood your, backyard with your pool, stuff like that. But
Right.
acts of God. The main problem we're facing right now is the rising cost of deductibles.
right,
Because in Texas, housing prices are skyrocketing.
of course,
And then they want to do the deductible as a percentage of your home.
right,
And then sometimes when you get into like certain areas where the house is $700,000 or $800,000 and it's only an $8,000 roof,
right,
so basically they're not paying you anything.
right, right. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's why I would never do a percentage.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got a number.
Yeah.
That is what that deductible
Yeah,
is.
and then they're trying to raise to 1.5%. There's an insurance company that's already doing that.
That's just
So
crazy.
it's really hurting the consumer, and the interest rates are going up, and then they're wanting more out of pocket. And I deal with some adjusters. I dealt with one the other day, and he goes, "Roofers, you guys are blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Well, without us, there'd be no you."
That's right. That's right. It's amazing how people don't understand that.
Well, because during COVID, when no one was driving a car, State Farm laid off thousands of auto adjusters.
Right.
No one was wrecking,
Yeah.
so they lost their jobs.
Right.
So residential adjusters need to understand that I'm the roofer. Without me, you would be unemployed.
Right.
You wouldn't have anything to adjust.
It's funny because I didn't start out becoming a divorce lawyer. I started out in business litigation,
Oh,
and I kind of got dragged kicking and screaming over to the dark side. And I'm glad I did. It's worked out well, and I really enjoy it. But being in business litigation, I don't know if you remember this, but when there was the big tort reform stuff, and half the people that were leading, carrying the flags for tort reform and all that, were all of these insurance defense litigators. And all of a sudden, all this shit went through, and guess what? Half of these people had to change what their business plans looked like because it was different. You didn't have this catastrophic injury stuff that was covered the same way that it was. And so anyway, it's interesting how that kind of stuff changes people's perspective a little bit, So, well, one of the other things I wanted to ask you about, so with your daughter, when she first came over, was how old?
9.
And was she a regular English speaker at that time?
No, she was not. She didn't speak. I feel like she could understand a little bit of English, but she couldn't speak it at all.
Oh my gosh. And so how old is she now?
14.
And how has that changed?
It's changed a lot. Kids adjust really quickly.
Right.
When she has no choice but to speak English,
Right.
She did go to ESL for like a year, but they were telling me that her English is fine, but she would never talk to me. So so she would talk to them very quietly. But
Gotcha.
I couldn't get her to talk to me. But, now that she's a teenager, she's a regular chatterbox. And we have the normal father-daughter thing about clean your room, why is your assignments late for school, or
And by the way, folks that are out there, understand father-daughter thing is not a basis necessarily for a modification of something. We're talking normal father-daughter stuff.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Well, and when you say father-daughter, it's a little different because, as I understand, her father has passed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that's another thing that if you've got typically, if you were going to have a stepdad and they're referring to stepdad as daddy, being told to do that, that's a whole nother reason that somebody could go in and get.
I don't think
or
she calls
seek a
me anything,
modification.
really.
Just, hey, you, where's my money?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. She doesn't address me as anything.
Yeah, so enjoy being a parent, man, because that's a big part of it is enjoy that is where is my money?
Yeah, what's my limit at the mall? That's what she wants to know on her debit card. Yeah, those are the conversations I get.
Well, those are the normal ones.
Yeah, can you drop me at the track meet so I can hang out with my friends? She doesn't address me as anything. The checkbook.
Yeah, well, there you go. As long as she is, just calling you that, and it's not something worse than that, then it's not that bad. Very good. Well, what else is going on in your life these days?
Well, I'm just I'm living happy, joyous, and free.
Man.
I'm just working every day to wake up, pray, get a good contact with God, and do the next right thing, and just keep moving forward. And not, live in fear and stuff like that. And just try to help other people as much as I can.
Right.
I try to do a random act of kindness every day and don't tell anyone about it, although my ego makes that very difficult.
Yeah. I get it, man. I totally understand that. That's the thing that always drives me nuts, where you get certain people that want to do the look at me thing. Anytime they do, there's no such thing as a random act of kindness. It's watch me do this so you can tell me how great I am. And it takes away from the kindness of the act.
Yep.
It's no longer sincere. So I don't talk about what I do in that regard because it's nobody's damn business.
Yep.
It's between me and the big guy upstairs under what I'm doing, and he will ultimately judge me based on have I been a good steward of what he has provided to me.
Yep.
So I'm glad to hear that you do that, because that's important to me too.
Yep.
So, well, folks, I want to thank my good friend DJ for being with us today, and thank y'all for joining us for another edition of the Reclamation Transformation. And never forget, change begins with you, so leave your mark.